and us to size.
Yeah.
And we looked at how much they spent in supplies, and then we tried to find sort of a middle ground. We actually were higher initially, and we backed it down some.
Yeah, Amherst Pelham was a school district, was roughly the same size as far as pupils and whatever. And to come up to about their level, which would not bring us to the state average, that would be well below it. I think we needed to add $142 per pupil.
So again, we're trying to address, you know, the issue to some extent. There probably will still be some need to have parents contribute some supplies, but it wouldn't be to the extent that it currently.
About what do we spend on supplies right now? Like what's in our budget now, except for the.
I was just going to say
less than
what we
1%.
spend and what we have. We have for instructional supplies a little over $100,000.
But we
That's what I
froze
thought.
that every single year before
Yeah.
we've spent that.
Right.
Yeah.
That's correct,
Yeah.
because
So
we've
it's
had
kind of
other
a
expenses.
wasted line on the budget.
We
So
never
on
used
a
it,
roughly $14 million budget, we spent $100,000 on.
basically.
Supplies.
Yeah.
We rely a lot on the PTA to help us with some
Mhm.
with some help,
And
and
we
then
froze it
obviously
in October
parents.
this year, right?
Mhm.
And I think it was about the same last year.
Last year.
Mm-hmm.
And it probably won't get unfrozen.
We looked at the custodial maintenance, and we're recommending that because we spent $100,000 this year in unanticipated maintenance situations. So we were recommending putting $25,000 to work on contracted services so that we could actually maintain our buildings and have money set aside to do that, as opposed, as we've said, to cutting into other things that we haven't been able to purchase in the past. Go ahead, Tim.
No, I was just going to say the example I used with Carroll, for example, is just fields alone. If we were to aerate our fields the way they should be aerated, that's a $14,000 expense annually.
Where's the asbestos? Where's the asbestos thing in here?
That's in the budget.
It's already in there?
That's in the
Okay,
level.
thank you.
That's in a level budget.
Right.
Okay, thank you.
Custodial, oh, go ahead.
Just one, I just have two questions.
Mhm.
The $100,000 that we spent this year unanticipated, a couple of items, what were they? I just can't recall exactly what they
We
were.
had several
Pearly.
problems with HVAC.
Okay.
We had problems at
Unit
Pearly.
ventilators.
Boiler.
We had problems with unit ventilators in all three schools.
Okay.
We had we did have a boiler issue.
Boiler.
Okay,
Yeah.
that's fine.
Kind
No,
of.
and that 100,000 was unanticipated.
Yes.
So that meant that you took
We
100,000
had to put
out
a door on, didn't we?
Other things.
We had to
out
put a
of
door in the high
somewhere
school?
else, right?
Yes.
Right.
Okay.
We had to unencumber, we had things that we had planned to spend money on that we didn't,
That we
can't
okay.
spend money on.
So, basically,
for-
all of our maintenance is reactive at this point.
Frankly, in a sort of a convoluted way, nobody tell the federal government this. We really kind of played a shell game with ed jobs, because some of that money came.
But the
when we were
fact,
able
the
to
fact is
move.
going forward,
We
we're
moved paraprofessionals to ed jobs, which was perfectly legitimate.
Yeah.
But when that money was freed up, some of that money was what went to pay for some of those maintenance issues.
Okay.
but the fact is going forward, we're still in that reactive position,
Correct.
Of course we are.
Yeah.
Yep.
And we always will be until
Well,
Yes.
Until what?
there's some long-term.
Until
When I-
enrollment goes down.
When I met
well,
with,
then,
Until enrollment starts going down.
Yeah.
That's what's gonna happen.
when I met with the CIP committee, we all presented long-range plans for the various departments, and I said, we have actually achieved some of our goals for FY11, and the reason we achieved them is because of insurance money. Because the stuff got damaged and had to be replaced.
Custodial equipment was something that was in the initial budget before we cut it down to level services. We don't have the equipment that we need for our custodians to do the work, and we haven't been able to find a way to put money in the budget. And again, addressing NEASC, that's one of the things that they're concerned about when they talk about a steady and dependable source of funding, that they determined that the building was not clean and not well maintained due to reductions in supplies and materials and equipment and the lack of replacement, as well as the cutting of the maintenance and custodial staff.
And I could show you $22,000 worth of equipment right now.
Alright, so you have this, we have to discuss, is there anything else that anybody wants added on this? Then we have to discuss, if we were to agree to this, does it solve, well, how long does it solve our,
I think I did issue, so let's start.
solve our
well, and
problems?
there's a couple
Solve
other
it for a
things.
year.
They want to
One
flip to
year.
page 5.
Right.
One
next-
year and you still have a school on accreditation warning.
Yes.
Well, the only way.
So it maintains a status quo, picks up a few of the pieces from the past couple of years, but it's 1 year. And you're
1.2,
asking
you're
for-
saying.
What goes in your base, but it.
And you're looking at 11 to 14% tax increase to tell the public that they're going to get a 1-year benefit.
On a $1.2
Unless
million
state
dollar.
aid gets to a certain level, unless some other thing happens that generates revenue, unless we have a collective bargaining that's going to be much more beneficial.
But George,
That's what you get.
But you're gonna. What it does though is it maintains. It puts a stop to the bleeding, right?
For a year.
Why?
Yeah.
But it's in the base,
Well,
right?
No, what happens next year if the budget goes up another $400,000 goes to contractual obligations? And we're level funded again, you've got to cut $400,000. So the 1.2 million you just took out, that we got for extra money, next year we'll be talking about 400,000 in cuts. There won't be new money, because healthcare costs is what's going to take away
why are we
anything
why are we
that's up
talking
to the
about
levy
this?
limit.
No, if it's new, it's new. But I don't know why.
I'm responding to Eric's question. He said, what other stuff, when people ask us, what's the number that you need to get what you need? And we said, we're not recommending this, but for your information, and this is
Yeah, I
for
like
your
to see
Okay,
that.
that's
information.
more of it.
That's right.
That's
Okay.
adding on to the
For
list.
your information, the way this would work is, the first 4 pages are just exactly what you've
Yeah.
got. Starting on page 5 is the new stuff,
Bring it on.
Okay,
All right.
okay?
Yep.
thank you.
It's this plus more.
Now, I will tell you that the discussion the other night at FinCom, I guess is as good a time as any to bring it up. What?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Oh, here, I might have 2.
Two more.
Um, there is talk in, among some, how many of these am I, I'm only supposed to have 2 things, right?
You're supposed to have 2?
All right.
Or you need 2 more, George? Okay.
One more.
George?
One.
The
First four
first 4 pages.
pages.
That adds on more.
Some people in the town have been
Or-
discussing a potential
Oh,
maintenance override for
right,
the town.
same.
That would encompass school maintenance as well as other town buildings. This building, the public safety building, the garage, I believe the light department, water department buildings. Any others?
Not light and water? but
Not water and light is
Not
what
light and water?
No.
It wasn't light and water.
Library, that's it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Library.
Library and schools.
But it was,
Public safety.
Public safety.
and while we definitely think that that would be a wonderful thing for us to be able to take that, at this point, it doesn't seem that there's, it's not the idea hasn't been developed enough. It's not, it would be a great thing and we would be all for it, but at this point in time, based on what we have to deal with the schools alone, and this is just me, I wouldn't make a decision for the rest of the committee, but just so you know, there's nothing set up. So a maintenance, another maintenance department for the town is basically what this would fund, this, this potential override would fund, but nothing's set up. So I don't know how, if the plan is, there is a placeholder for that on the warrant, but I don't know what, and Steve might have better information. I mean, you were at the same meeting I was, and it didn't seem to me that there was anything specific in place for that whole department and that whole idea to go forward.
There's a concept.
Right.
Where Mike is pursuing a bid, or not a bid, I should say, a price quote to understand what the gap would be to go from level current service, which we know is below, to above. But, a lot of people are investing time into it, but my opinion was we weren't there yet at this time.
Right, and, right.
And it needs to be shored up in the next week, I'm guessing?
Well, no, Mike was thinking
If
it
we're
had to be
thinking of doing
fully
it.
fleshed out by July, but the consensus of the group at the meeting was the public wouldn't buy that.
No.
That they would wanna know, how's it gonna work? The way
Before the
the way
override.
they were talking about it was, the town spends, based on the budgets, the lines in budgets, existing budgets, was $542,000. Close to 500,000 of that was the school. So the thought initially was that the schools get to keep the $500,000. The maintenance gets removed, and we get the benefit of having maintenance and custodial maintenance taken care of outside of us. And then our budget, that $500,000 could be used to put in things that we wanted to put in.
So if we had 100,000 of unanticipated expenses like we had this year, so it's not out of the realm of possibility, who will be culpable for that? Would it be us, or would it be this maintenance department?
I think that's one of the things that was not
That's
fleshed
one
out.
of
Right,
the
that's-
discussions, that's
that's
one of the
okay.
discussions. And, you know, and then the other discussion was, well, if 500 was the number, while it would help the schools, it wouldn't allow you to maintain the things that, all of the things that were
Right.
on your 642 cut list. So anyway.
That being said, going back to your numbers here.
Well, again, the override, which again, I don't think any of us are thinking this is going to be feasible. However, it adds programs and services that we feel are necessary, but we are not anticipating we are going to be receiving. But that number is $2,442,825.
A lot of it's technology.
A lot of it,
lot of
the
technology.
vast majority of it extra is technology.
A lot of it's, another chunk of it is more maintenance.
Yeah,
And then,
It's really maintenance and
Maintenance and
technology.
technology.
that's right.
Right.
That really is the
And
difference.
I think the thing, one of the things that Janet, is it Janet Allison?
Ben,
Came, when she talked about the accreditation, and she talked about computers and the necessity for it. One of the things that you hear here and there in town is, why do they need new computers? Why do they need all this technology? You know, they have things they can get by, and one of their whole premises was they need to be, what were her words were, you know, they need to be taught in current standards, 21st century learning experience, so they're
Right.
prepared for the world. And that was really their whole premise of why we needed it.
right.
And we can't run some of the curriculum that we have now on the computers that we have. The
Yeah,
CAD lab,
I mean,
right? That's
yeah,
pretty much.
I can
But all
speak
that has
for-
to go hand in hand.
I can speak firsthand with like the CAD lab computers, you know, the Windows like 97 or you know, the
What's wrong with that?
2000s.
It's pretty good.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, you know.
See,
better than
years old.
1990, I guess, right? All things
Yeah,
are relative.
exactly, I guess.
All things are relative.
So, but in this budget, and it's
One second.
town and district, are things like install a fiber optic loop between all of the school and town buildings, allowing for data and video transmission between the school buildings, as well as the ability to create more secure, redundant network.
Well, I think
That's a
people-
town and
That's right,
school thing.
exactly.
That's $200,000 into this.
That's
bid.
right
I don't
out
think
of the
doing
tech-
that with a
That's
with
right
a
out of the
school
technology
looming or
plan.
however
That's
they
right
would
out,
do
that's
that.
right out of the technology plan. Because I think people would be surprised to know that, because we're not connected, that, for example, building principals don't know at a minute's notice what's in their budgets. Because they're not on Munis. They
Yep.
can't read only. Maybe people would be surprised
a
to
hell of a way to
learn
run a
that
business,
teachers
right?
fill out professional development requests in triplicate.
Right.
That there's no mechanism to put purchase orders, to automate them, it's a pretty archaic system, and we can't really even talk to the town. So one of the things that was nice about the technology planning was that we came up with this plan that in many ways interfaced nicely with what the town needs. And so the goal here, it was to, we don't have a funding mechanism for it. That's the challenge we face.
Steve?
Just, I may be wrong, but we could be mixing up apples and oranges here, because some of these would be capital one-time costs versus an operating override, right? Or is this, so, for example, for the 200,000 for fiber optic,
That's a one-time.
That's one.
you
That's
might,
one
yes.
you might put
Yep.
20,000 in there for a
I mean,
10-year
that's on purpose,
loan?
Lease.
And a lease or whatever?
Yeah.
So just from, I just
Yeah.
wanna make, I'm
Right.
just testing.
That's a good
No,
point.
that's a very good point, Steve. And one of the things, I don't know, sometimes when you have a building project, if the town approves a building project, sometimes, some of those things can be taken care of as part of a bond too, because they're one-time expenses and.
Right. And some of these, again, I'm not discouraging them, but
No,
you
no.
just might budget them differently. As
Mhm.
Terry said, a $20,000 a year lease for this override gets you, the lease. But I just,
Mhm. It's a good
just
point.
point out that because it will increase the budget permanently for a one-time cost.
Right.
upfront.
Well, in a sense, that would be, actually, that's a good point, Steve, because in a sense, that would be a far more positive way to do it, because the idea would be that if you have, for example, a $20,000 lease for the infrastructure, you have, let's say, for the sake of argument, a $50,000 annual lease payment for, and actually you might want to make a little bit more than that because you don't